Hey guys, all right, what's really going on? Um, well, I was sitting here and I was getting something like somebody is like feeling stuck. It may be more than just one somebody, but there's energy or energies that are stuck and trying to figure something out. A lot of times it's like obvious and right in your face, and you're having a hard time like seeing it. You need to step back. It's usually something like that, and then it comes to you. Um, yeah, because there's been something I've been thinking about, like intuition and music. They go well together. They're well paired together. Like for instance, uh, well, when you watch tarot or psychic mediums, anything like that, you see a lot with music. Okay. And for some reason the other day, yeah, Kim Clement popped up, just kind of in my thoughts. But he did, you know, that's basically just doing readings and having music, to help uh, with the psychic process. All right. So you can see that music and intuition goes together. So, like going into the new world, so to speak, the new way of doing things, things that are moving and changing. Well, you learn to work with, well, like you compare things together, like, people that are musicians, this is just an art, one way of looking at it. But like musicians with people that are, psychics, or the old word for it would be like prophet. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing, really. Um, but they could pair together and, do something with that. It's like, I don't know, I feel like some people need to hear this out there. Like there's been stuff right in front of them they just weren't seeing. Like, that's like they're healing or something like that. A lot of people seem to have this problem of when they're moving into something new or looking, like they're stuck and they're not able to do what they used to do anymore. It's because it's time for a new change, a transformation. Um, which, like in tarot, that's the death card, but it means transformation. It's like the old thing dies so the new thing emerges, like a caterpillar, it goes into a cocoon and then it comes out a butterfly. It's showing that we can go into an isolation period or hermit mode or wilderness or dark night of the soul, whatever it is, so that we come out different, okay? Like purified, and it just, we're different from doing that. We go in that mode in order to spend time with God and getting cleansed and purified of all the traumas, which is, the point of doing all of this. But it's just, most people are, if you're stuck in lack energy, you're not able to really see which way to go. Um, like we'll have dreams and then we don't remember them or something like that. You need something to bring it back up, jog your memory, uh, whatever it takes. But it's a lot of times unplugging and kind of getting your mind off of what your mind's always on. So you need, to be able to get away, get free, do this, do that, whatever it is, so that you can see it more properly or in the context that you need to look at it in. But you will see that a lot when it comes to, like intuition things or the metaphysical, or, I mean, even in church, they would have a minister and they'd have music, you know? It's that same kind of idea, but there's a way to expand on that idea. All kind of ways to really do that. But it's looking at things differently, stepping outside of the box. When granted, when you've been doing something so long, it's hard for you to a lot of times be able to step out of the box and look at it differently. But that's why you have, or, find someone that you work well with, you know what I mean? That similar types, or, complete opposites, like, on the zodiac scale, for instance, they tend to work together, in partnerships. So, yeah, things like that. So, you look at those kind of things and you can see a lot. But that, there's all kinds of ways of doing things. Just look at it differently, not the way that you're used to seeing it, used to doing it. There's so many different ways um, to do things instead of being, conformed to a box. You want to be a nonconformist. Do things differently, because that's what's, um, that's what's new. You know what I'm saying? That's like a new beginning, a new start, doing things differently, thinking way outside of the box. But you definitely got to have people around that think outside of the box. You got to have those ones that do that, like on a regular basis. But it's a healing thing to be able to step back and look at things completely differently. And sometimes you can see something that you're like, that's it, whatever it is. But there's all kinds of ways of looking at things differently, which is, having a different perspective, looking at something upside down, sideways, whatever you need to do, and in order to get a different look at something, or to step back away from it and then come back to it. But of course, taking care of, what you got to take care of. But I felt like there were some people that needed to hear this. Like, perhaps it would help them to, figure out what they need to figure out and move accordingly, so that it helps them, with their healing and what they need, and what, is the start of, like a new journey, a new way of doing things and seeing things differently. And you can do this with anything. Just think differently. What would be, pray and ask, what would be different than the old way we've, done things, whatever it is. Even television, stuff like that. If it helps people to manifest, bad, wicked, stuff like that, put people to sleep, reverse it. Do it the other way. Do it where it's waking people up. And they're seeing people that, have been through this metamorphosis, if I can just say it. Metamorphosis. But it helps other people to see that, even if they're, they're saying things or saying words that people haven't heard before. They're like, what? Because that happened to me. I was there. People talking about chakras, and they got a singing bowl, and they're, doing music with it. And I'm like, well, what? I had to figure out what it all meant. I had to research it. So putting things out there like that, it helps people to get into research mode and start looking into things. Well, what is all this? Like you have a channel startup, or a, cable channel, whatever. It's, just something that's all this, where it's maybe different people and, different ways of doing things, whatever. And then, and then another, and then another. You see, to where it gets people a chance to see it, get involved with it. They can get on YouTube because it's on there, or Rumble, or any of the other, platforms, TikTok, and there's plenty of them. But there's all kinds of ways of, say, different partnerships, different than before. Instead of just the people in the, okay, say you're in the music or TV, entertainment industry. And instead of finding people that are in the entertainment industry, find someone that's outside of it, so that you get someone that thinks outside of the box. Instead of, well, this is how we do things. Well, that's the problem. You need people that don't think the way that, if you're in that field, that think the way that you do. And this goes with anything out there, any field. You get someone that's not in that field, where they don't know the way that y'all do things, so that you get out of the box information. You get, the thinkers. I mean, that's, where you get the brilliant ass ideas from. It's the ones that have been going through the hard shit, because they, what is it they say? The necessity is the mother of invention. So it's different perspectives. That's another way of putting two opposites together, or however many. But, partnerships with people that are completely different, from different worlds. It's a bringing together of those two different worlds to solve problems and have healing. Okay? It's all new way of doing things, instead of this gatekeeping. This is closed off. No, you can't do this. That's the point. You go against it. That's oppression. People need to see what's causing things like the human trafficking, and and what's oppression. They keep people that have, they keep people that they want to keep trapped down, so they can't have money, so they can't have anything, so they don't have abilities to, do anything, when they have lots of abilities, but there's people that are keeping them down. Flip that on its head. It's called flipping the tables. Do everything the opposite way. These are people that have wisdom and know things, but it depends on where they're at with their healing. So if everyone that's been through this starts working on their healing, you see, you can start getting people that really know some shit, like the poor with the wealthy. You're going to get, that's two sides that can teach each other. Do you see my point here? It's, instead of wealthy with the wealthy, and y'all can't, figure things out really, it's two separate worlds. Bring them together so that it's balanced. Do you see? Instead of all this, no, keep this apart, keep this apart, keep this separate, you bring things together. You do the opposite, like how they've had all this border control. Well, that's how they have human trafficking. There wouldn't be people trying to sneak them across the border and stuff like that. You open the borders. And what you do is you get the people that are actually doing the crimes. If they're doing murder, molestation, rape, they're doing white-collar crimes, instead of, they go after the little petty shit instead of going after the real crimes, because, they have corruption, It's why these things are going on. Instead of doing the things the way that you always done them, look at it at the complete opposite view. What would be the outcome of that? Start really looking at it and start, traveling that thought process down. How would this work? And can you really see it all the way around, or do you need someone that can? Because there has to be a realization that there's a lot of people who've been put to sleep, like chemically, they're sold to sleep. There's all kinds of different ways. So we have people that are at a disability level until they wake up. And it's, unfortunately, it's pain that wakes them up. It's what it takes, for them to wake up and realize before, it's too late. But that's what makes mountains move, in order to get to that healing process. The tower is like a painful moment, but you can take the tower on before it gets to you in order to keep it from being, I don't know, like too much or something like that. But, you take the initiation to go ahead and, do what you need to do so you don't have it so bad, instead of fighting it, because fighting it is what's, damaging. It's self-sabotage. Okay? So start looking at things differently instead of the same. That's like getting in a rut, doing things differently than they have before, like how they've grown food and gotten rid of a lot of foods. There's a lot of the foods that you need to be having growth of all kinds of different types of foods. You know, not just one potato, but all different types of potatoes. Different types of this, different types of that. That way, if there's, you know, something that's attacking that or this or that, whatever it is, then it's not attacking everything because you have different varieties. That's, you know, the point of doing things like that and having different foods and different varieties of the food so that if something's attacking it, there's other foods, you know. There's ways to handle things a lot smarter than the ways that we've been taught. You know, they've all put us in a assembly line school and work and stuff like that. You know, it's the assembly line for slaves. You see? So to get out of that, you got to go through all these steps. It wakes you up and it helps to wake others up and it helps to stop this so that we don't have that anymore. You know, that we have freedom and enterprise, you know, the enterprise that is, you know, entrepreneurship instead of, you know, all this government red tape. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Why? Because they don't want people prosperous. It's weird. When you see controls, it's showing something. It's showing someone that's in lack and fear and not handling, you know, things right. If everyone's stay in their own lane, take care of themselves, and, you know, you do want to help other people and not, you know, like be blind to it. But you're supposed to care for those that are vulnerable, you know. But if they've been doing like the worst of the worst to others, then, you know, you reap what you sow or you don't learn your lessons. And we have people that are scared to death of going through their lessons. People that have abandonment wounds and mother and father wounds. And you got to get that healed. It changes your life. It changes the trajectory. It changes so that you don't go back into the same ending that you had, you know, like your ancestors had, so on, so on. Past life, ancestors, whatever. It's, you know, you'll have to look into that so you can see that fully for yourself. But there's a lot of things we can do. It's just a matter of looking at it differently. But when you put different people from different places together, man, you can really, it's like a vehicle, so to speak, that you're able to do so much more, because then you're looking at, it's almost like looking at the full world view of how to do something. Instead of just having it, you know, just this side or that side, and everybody kept separate instead of coming together and making something awesome, you know, something that just changes everything, you know. Just look at things differently in a way perhaps maybe you never thought of before. And if you can't, then you find someone who can. You get very different people, but people that can get along, you know. You can come up with all kinds of things. I mean, like the sky's the limit. You have to think differently, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, you know, and you're seeing it different because it was something you just weren't seeing before, you know. But it's time for people to start thinking differently instead of, you know, the same way, with the same barriers and, you know, things put up to where, well, we can't do this, we can't do this. Well, why not? That is, you know, the question. Well, why not? Why can't we do something this way or whatever? You see? Just think outside the box. That's the key.